The honest answer is that I think it wasn't until I discovered the high five habit that I profoundly realized how much self-hatred I was dealing with. And
Despite everything else, yeah.
well, and this I think is a really big piece of the power of this, especially if you're somebody who's achievement oriented, and everybody that listens to this podcast feels a big calling and wants to do more in the world and make a bigger difference and a bigger impact. There's a real danger that's very common, Jay, that you start to marry, or you've always married, being worthy or lovable with what you're doing and what you're achieving. And it works both ways in terms of if you don't have the number on the scale, it means, again, the dust on the mirror. You are not worthy because you haven't achieved it yet. And for those of us that have achieved some things that we've set out to do, what happens is you find that as soon as you achieve the thing, you actually need to do something else.
Bigger,
better, because it was a thing that you achieved that made you lovable or worthy. And the real trick, and this is everything, is being able to know and feel in your bones that you are lovable and worthy just because you're breathing. And that was a huge breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
And so, no, I never celebrated because I think I was so married to this idea that unless I'm doing or winning or achieving, and it happens so subtly when you're little because you start to get so much positive praise when you get a good grade or when you do something at school or when you make your mates laugh or whatever it might be, that you start to go, oh, that's what love feels like. Oh, if I do that. And so you outsource love and validation to outside things. And I'm here to tell you, we all got to learn how to bring it back home and anchor the validation and love that you need where you are right now every single day. And it's only in discovering this that I had to confront just how much I was beating myself up, just how much I was tearing myself down, and how I was chasing these things. Because what I actually wanted was to feel loved. Like if you ask yourself, okay, great, you want to make $1 million. Why? There's a feeling that you're looking for from that. And if you can start to work on bringing that feeling into your day-to-day life for yourself, it changes the way that you go about achieving things. Like I didn't even enjoy half the stuff that I did because I was constantly maniacally focused on the things that weren't working rather than the 100 things that were. And the same is true with everybody's day. You don't even know the number of amazing things you do every day. You feed the dog, high five. You got the kids to school, high five. You read 10 pages of the book, high five. You said a nice thing to a stranger, high five. You got something done at work, high five. You got through 70% of your inbox, high five. Instead, you focus and ruminate on the one thing you didn't get to, and then you use that as evidence, again, dust on the mirror, to see a human being that's not measuring up and never will, and all that stuff their stupid fourth grade teacher said to you must be true, dust on the mirror. No, you need to interrupt this. Period. If you could always just look in the mirror and see a human being that's trying and that's worthy of a high five, and a human being that failed and okay, we're going to brush it off and that's worthy of a high five. Somebody who is running the marathon of life that you are going to celebrate every step of the way. And, you know, I also want to take this and flip this in the opposite because I think this is where people really get mucked up. This happened in my own marriage. And it's only a recent discovery between Chris and I. And that is that we had the opposite thing happen, Jay. So when Chris and his best friend went into the restaurant business and they poured 7 years into it and gave it their go, and at the end of the day, they sold it, you know, for pennies on the dollar to the next investor, and they did not return the profit that they had hoped they would return to their investors. Now, what was interesting about watching this all go down is that our best friend, who was Chris's partner, was able to leave the experience and go, okay, entrepreneurship. I'm so proud of us. We put in so much work. We built something amazing. We had an incredible brand. We were incredible leaders. Did we return the profit? No. But that's not everything in life. And he moved on. My husband could not. He literally said, because I didn't achieve, because I failed, I am a failure who is not worthy of love. And for 7 years, he has walked into a bathroom with the dust that has said, I am a failure. And so as you have been looking for, why doesn't she love me more? Somebody who fails goes, how can you still love me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's only until, it doesn't matter how much I love the guy, it doesn't matter how much I build him up. And, I'm so proud of everything that he's done and all the stuff that Chris is doing. And he's had a massive breakthrough in this. And part of it is through the high five habit because of the resistance. But I can't do that. Look at the failure that I've been.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love yourself, you won't allow somebody else to love you.
Yeah.
And so when you can separate what you're doing from your soul and your intention and your spirit and your humanity, and you can stand with yourself every morning, and that high five doesn't necessarily become celebration, it becomes acceptance, and it becomes compassion, and it becomes acknowledgement, and then it becomes slowly celebration and momentum and forward energy that you need when life drags you down.
Yeah.
And so it's really a profound point you just made, that it's only when you love yourself for breathing, for living, for being, just as you are, that level of acceptance that we so want from everybody else. And I'm telling you, you have an opportunity to do it for yourself by keeping your promises, by being kind to yourself, by standing before yourself and seeing a human being who needs you and who loves you and who's going to be with you your whole life. Why has it been tough? You really love her. You're getting on a plane and you're going to go see her.
Yeah, I love her a bunch.
Okay.
So, I guess I'm kind of coming to the realization that I haven't been hearing her properly, connecting with her on the level that I should be. And now I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So a couple months ago, we've been having counseling. And,
that's good. My husband and I go to counseling.
It helps. She was doing it before, and then it kind of became the group, and then now I kind of see a little bit on my own. So I'm recognizing these things, but I also know, like a couple of months ago in counseling, she admitted on her last tour that she had emotionally connected with somebody else. So obviously that put a big fire under my ass.
Yeah.
And
it's scary.
Supposedly I handled it really well, so she's wanting to, do all this. She's worked a lot on herself for kind of getting to the point where she's at.
Yeah.
She's got a spot on the bookshelf that's 12, 15 composition books deep of just thoughts ever since she was back, I think she said, to like 12.
Amazing.
Because of some things that happened to her before that age of being taken advantage of. So she's had to do a lot of that.
This is serving as a final boarding fine. The doors are closing in about 3 minutes, and they will not
doing this, you realize how much you need to work on yourself.
It's scary. And then a lot of regrets come up, and a lot of things you wish you could do over, and then you start to realize there's shit from your past that really messed with you, that you shoved down, that happened when you were a kid. This is, I think, the cycle that we all hit in adulthood. And here's the amazing opportunity. You not only have an amazing opportunity to change the person that you are and to change the relationship that you have with your life, but you have an amazing opportunity to change the relationship you have with yourself. Because your thoughts, your feelings, they actually matter too. And you can't get...
I've been neglecting.
Yes. See, relationships are amplifiers. You go into a relationship and you're not right with yourself, that relationship just magnifies what's missing. What did you just get from that?
I like that. Well, it's going to expose those demons more.
Yeah, and here's the thing that most men, at least in a traditional gender sense, don't understand. That it takes tremendous strength to be vulnerable. It takes tremendous strength to talk about the shit that's bothering you.
Yeah.
It takes tremendous strength to admit that you're wrong and to be scared. And that's actually what makes you connect more deeply to your partner. My husband of 25 years failed miserably in the restaurant business. Nearly bankrupted us. Lost it all. When he left the business, he was an alcoholic and completely lost and demoralized. And I did not know until recently, because it was through these rock bottom moments that my career took off. I invented this little thing called the 5-second rule that I used to get out of bed when the anxiety was so crushing. The only thing that would help me escape it was drinking myself into oblivion to numb it all out. And I started using this little brain hack to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, shut down the noise in my brain and launch myself forward through the fear, through the pain, through all of it. And my whole life turned around. Chris's life turned around. But I did not know until recently, when we've been in couples therapy, that the man has, for the last 8 years, just been beating the hell out of himself because he feels like he failed. He feels like he wasn't there for me. He feels like he didn't do his job providing.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. And then when your spouse starts to get successful and they start to find themselves, it gets very confronting. And so what I want to tell you is that the opportunity to connect with her is through being open and through being open. Like, go toward that shit. I'm proud of you.
I've been doing it, as you see.
I can see that. I can see that. I can see that. And you got to learn how to love yourself, regardless of what happened. Regardless of what you did or didn't do, regardless of all that, you got to learn how to look in the mirror and see a man who is worth rooting for and who is worthy of love. It is not too late to change this. It is not too late to change your life. It's not too late to change your marriage, but it's an inside-out job. You start to show yourself some kindness and some love, and you start sharing more of the stuff that's coming up for you, and that is the path that's going to actually heal you, and it's going to
stop.
Yes. Yeah.
So to speak. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Just need my mojo back. I think that's what she mad at me. I had a nice swagger and everything, but it's gotten diluted or
by life.
I think so. Maybe my own just being stagnant. And
that's it.
Accepting instead of keep pushing.
You know, my good friend Joel Marin, who you should follow, just sent me a freaking thing that he wrote today. Oh my God, Joel! Praise you, Joel. Joel, I cannot believe this. Joel Marin, I'll give you his name. He literally wrote me this whole thing that he wrote today that you need to hear. Wait till I'm going to find out. Marion. He wrote me this whole thing about the fact that when we are born, we have incredible potential, but so few of us realize what we're capable of. And he uses this analogy. This is in your DNA. You were created to be a Lamborghini in life. You have literally everything inside you to be able to perform like that Lambo. You're manufactured that way. That engine, 729 horsepower engine, is in there. That insane torque. You have unbelievable intrinsic ability to go from 0 to 65 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. But for most of us, we never experience close to those numbers that we are created to perform at. And so he tells a story about how he was test driving one, but the neighborhood he's in has like 35 mile per hour speed limit.
Okay.
He ended up not buying it because he never experienced the potential.
Right.
What you're talking about is you're talking about the fact that you actually know there is that inside of you. And when you lose your capacity that you were built in, and you stop growing, and you stop stretching yourself, and you stop pushing yourself forward and learning new stuff and expressing yourself, something inside you starts to feel like it's dying.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling you,
that engine.
Yes, it's still there. And the reason why it's still there is because you miss it. And you can only miss something you know.
Okay.
So I think Joel sent me that for a reason. In times of my life when I felt lost or stagnant, I say I feel like a racehorse tied to a pony ride at a kid's birthday party. Like I am built to fucking run.
Yeah.
And I hate it when I feel like just tied down like that.
Yeah.
And so there is something inside you that you've been holding back. What do you think it is?
I'm not really sure.
Well, I would take on a challenge.
I'm not sure if it's a passion that I've ever tapped into or something that I've missed since, earlier years.
Who knows? I think you should take on a challenge. I think you should take on climbing some mountain or some kind of race or some like fitness thing, something that's a little out of your comfort zone to give you something to push you. It doesn't have to be the perfect thing. Just something that you're up to is enough.
Yeah.
But I want to acknowledge you for the fact that you recognize that there's an issue and you're taking the steps to go make the effort. You're getting on a plane, you're flying to surprise your wife.
Not only that, but I deal with motion sickness, vertigo, and
awesome.
And I don't drive well at night, so I've got the bands on.
Great, they work.
I took my motion sickness pills.
I love that. I give you a high five for that. That's fantastic.
We're doing what we can.
You're doing it. Then does she know you? She doesn't know you're coming.
She does now.
Oh, good.
She didn't a couple days ago, but then we were trying to do the pregnancy reveal to some of the family because we just found out last week.
Congratulations!
So she was all like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. You're there, I'm here, and I want to video chat my family and be able to like tell them because she's up where some of the family is and she was seeing some of them coming to visit. So I told her, I'll tell you what, well, I'm actually coming up there. So she was pretty surprised, but
That's awesome. You're going to be an awesome dad. You want to know who the best dads are?
Yeah.
The ones who are actually right with themselves.
That's true.
The ones who are able to talk about their emotions. The ones who are able to be human.
This is my second child. This is her first, but I told them, my son's almost 23.
That's amazing.
So to start over, it's it's been a lot of emotion.
You're not going to start over. You actually are building upon. Okay.
And my son's been great. He's guys would be super impressed with how good my son is. He hasn't seen his mom since he was 6 years old, so I kind of raised him on my own. I mean, there's people in and out of the life, but yeah.
You got a moment in your life to make yourself really proud of yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And if I were a betting woman, some days I am, depends how much liquor I make, I'd place my bet on you.
That's what I'd like. I want that more than anything.
Don't wish for it, don't want it.
And my wife deserves it.
Do the work. No, hold on.
What? Go ahead.
You deserve it.
I deserve it. Okay.
Give yourself what you're seeking from other people. Seek redemption and forgiveness because you deserve it from yourself. And in my book, forgiveness means that you have stopped wishing things could be different. Accept everything that's happened or didn't happen as a lesson. And as long as you hold on to that shit from the past, you're actually still there.
Yeah. Okay.
What'd you get out of this?
I got a little more resiliency, a little pick-me-up, and I'm glad I came and talked to you very much and took the time. I wasn't sure if I was imposing because I didn't know if it was more like a female thing, but I have plenty of emotion that I'm pretty open with. Sometimes too open, maybe.
I don't think so. I'm also going to introduce you to my husband. So he created a men's group a men's retreat called Soul Degree, where he takes guys out into the woods for 5 days to actually have these kinds of conversations. And he's had guys from 22 to 60 plus, multiple tours of duty, professional athletes, regular, just everyday folks like all of us. And it's remarkable. And what he also does, because he only does these a couple times a year, is he also has calls every month where it's guys get on and he leads a meditation and then there's a topic that y'all discuss and it's really freaking cool. And so I will make sure that you have his information and I will get both of your email addresses and I will have my team email you a credit so you can listen to one of my books on Audible.
That's cool. I've been doing a lot more trying to listen to stuff and you just don't know what direction to go because some stuff is just, some people just want to make some money on you and you there's so much out there. You just want to find the right path.
Yeah.
As best as possible.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
Thank you.
You said that you rarely see anyone with chronic anxiety who is not addicted to something.
Yes.
And that there is a tight connection between anxiety and addictive behavior. Can you explain that and help us understand that?
Sure. So I'm going to mention the E word here, and I hope you don't shut off.
Ego? I won't even understand it. Can you explain it without the ego? What's that?
Your ego is kind of like an overprotective mother. Right?
Okay.
Like, it doesn't want you to go and play on the swings because you might fall off. It doesn't want you to talk in front of people because when you did that when you were in grade 6, people laughed at you. And
is the ego the same thing as the alarm?
It's related to it through the amygdala as well.
See, I'm already confused.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not going to get into too much neuroscience. But basically, your ego is hooked into the amygdala, and your amygdala says, we're never doing that again because that hurt us. Whatever it was. And the amygdala never forgets. So it's basically getting into bypassing that ego, because the ego is so overprotective that it will not let you go back into your old alarm.
So the ego is thinking.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it is something that it talks to us with thinking.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but let's talk about the connection between anxiety and addiction.
Okay. So basically, we need something to help us through this alarm.
Wait a minute. I think I just got it. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me see if this is the answer. You ready?
No.
Is addiction typically somebody's coping mechanism for the alarm? So, for example, you reach for alcohol because it drowns out the alarm. You reach for porn or drugs or stress or whatever because it...
Achievement. Yes.
Got it. Okay, I got it. So, if somebody is struggling with addictive behavior, whether it is alcohol or cigarettes or vaping or it is any of that stuff, you are more than likely not addressing the root issue, which is the anxiety and alarm that's continuing to go off in the background.
Yeah. And on top of that, basically, the ego is very powerful. It doesn't want to let you go back into that. So the only way that you can feel love, connection, whatever, is alcohol, is codeine, is cocaine, whatever you're addicted to. So
wait, but you feel the connection to the alcohol or the codeine. That's what you're saying. So this is why I get confused with the ego, because I'm like, I don't give a shit about the ego. Let's talk like the alarm. And then what makes sense to me is that addiction mutes the alarm.
Totally.
And that you become bonded and connected to, for me, it was stress. For my husband, it was a daily weed habit. You know, like for what that, and that addiction is what's muting the alarm. This is really cool. Yeah. So where does mindset come in? Because, there is so much out there about mindset and mental wellness. And it's interesting because this conversation with you makes me desperate for a different word than mental health. Because even the word mental health makes me go neck up, makes me think thoughts, makes me go to just what's going on in my mind. And what you've taught me today is a game changer, because what you've taught us all is that no. All mental health issues start in the body. And they start with this kind of reaction that happens in your body to stored trauma or to a threat or to uncertainty. And then that signals our minds, and our minds then start spinning thoughts. And if we don't address this alarm system in our body, which has a purpose, which is there to protect us, which is supposed to agitate you, but we exacerbate it, we try to mute it. If we don't learn how to turn inward and heal all of this in our body and turn toward this alarm and soothe ourselves and love ourselves and give ourselves the reassurance and the support or whatever it is that we didn't get in childhood or what we need in that moment, that is actually the beginning of all healing. That's what I'm getting from you.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. So I would
Why do
love
we
to,
call it mental health then? Like, what isn't there? Can we come up with a different word that would actually signal you that when you're struggling with depression or you're struggling with anxiety or you're struggling with any like addiction issues, that it's not a mental health issue? It is a body something. Like, I don't even know how to describe this
well, it's
because
an
it's the
entire
exact
system.
opposite of the way that we think about things right
Yeah,
now.
it is the opposite. And you know, I love, you know, to come up with a better term than body set, but I think that's
Body
kind of
set?
what
What
it
is
is.
that? That feels like weightlifting.
Well, no, well, it's like mindset, body set. Like
Oh,
what is the
mindset.
place
Well, I
in your
didn't think of
body?
that.
Can you regulate your body? Because if you regulate your body, your mind will get regulated. If you regulate your mind, your body might get regulated. So what I'm saying is that if you go in through the body, your body's much more likely to relax your mind than your mind is to relax your body. Because you can say, hey, relax, hey,
Oh,
calm
whoa,
down.
whoa, whoa. Did you guys hear that? That was a wake up call for me right there. You were just dropping freaking knowledge, Russ. Okay, hold on. I'm going to state this again. And now I have menopause brain, and so I've just forgotten what I said. You said something like your body, if you regulate your body, it will
Yeah.
regulate your mind. But
It's
if you
much more
regulate
effective.
your mind right, it'll, you say it because you're the one who said it.
Yeah, it's much more effective to regulate your body first, which will automatically regulate your mind, than to try and regulate your mind to regulate your body. Because your mind lies to you all the time. Your body never can.
Is this why exercising is such an effective thing to do when it
Partly,
comes to anxiety and focus?
partly, but there's something beyond exercise. There's something within the somatosensory cortex, or the part of the brain that controls our movement and our sensation. When we activate that, we start getting into the sense of the body and out of the rumination of the mind.
And
So
so by
that's one of the,
activating that, is that what you're saying? You can activate that part by doing the exercises you've already talked about in terms of locating where the alarm is and then finding a neutral part in
yeah,
your body, breathing into it.
and
Do
just
you all?
movement. Just that's why yoga is so effective because it brings you into your body. Anxiety at its root is really a mind-body disconnect, right? We go up into our heads and we stay in our heads because we don't want to go down in our body because that's where the pain is. So we don't want to go into feeling town down in our body. We want to stay up in our thoughts. And that's another addiction. So we get addicted to worry. And that's why it's so hard to treat anxiety just by trying to fix thoughts because we're addicted to thinking already. We don't need any more thinking. We need a lot more feeling, but we don't want to feel because that's where the frickin' pain is.
Wow. So I've gotten a couple huge things
Okay?
from this. That first of all anxiety results from a separation
Of some kind.
anxiety that has some kind of separation experience or feeling separate from other in
And
childhood
self. And self.
and self. But what you just said too was really interesting, which is our response to that alarm or that feeling of being separate from self or separate from others or attacked by others or whatever, is that we actually do separate from ourselves. Anxiety and the alarm system, the way that most of us respond to it is to separate from our bodies, go up in our heads. And the way to quiet the alarm and ultimately turn it off is to come back and join in with yourself and come back to where the alarm is sounding off in your body and then find a neutral or safe space in your body where you can draw your attention and breathe into back and forth and back and forth. And that when you quiet the alarm and when you go toward it and soothe your own body, that is the step that you need to take if you want to heal this. And that the thinking is part of the toolkit. Like, what would you recommend as some sentence that we could say if we're trying the tools, we go into our body, we're soothing ourselves? Is there something that people could say or repeat to themselves that you find is effective with the more neck down approach?
Absolutely.
What do you say?
Basically this. am I safe in this moment? Am I safe in this moment? I know I've got a presentation to do on Friday. I know I've got a big tax bill. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. My mom is sick. But am I safe in this moment?
Why a question? Because I like saying I am safe.
You can do it both.
I am
you can do
okay.
it both ways. I find that people with anxiety, though, this is the thing about saying I love you in the mirror, is that people don't allow that in. The reason why you're anxious in the first place is because you block love. So when you say I love you...
Whoa. The reason why you're anxious is because you block love?
For yourself, yes.
What?
You're separated from yourself. That's exactly what it comes down to. That's what anxiety or alarm really is. It's a separation. And this is what I do. This is my little, we didn't get into my little intuitive thing here.
We're going to in a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
We save the best for last, but hold on. Okay. Keep talking about the fact that when you have this alarm going off.
Yeah.
You are blocking. Like, just say it again. I'm processing, hyper processing now. I'm just like, oh my God, I think I got it. I think I got it. That literally your alarm is asking for love and reinsurance.
Absolutely.
And when you go into your head, you block yourself from receiving it.
Yes.
When you go into your body and you breathe into the alarm and soothe yourself, you are actually giving yourself love.
Yes.
Holy shit.
And a lot of people with anxiety, they're uncomfortable with love in the first place. I'll give you a very quick example from my own life. So my dad, before I was 10 years old, was this wonderful guy. Like, he was so, connected to me and nurturing, taught me how to hit a ball, play chess, all this kind of stuff. Very, very connected to him. And I loved him greatly. And then as I got to be a young teen and his schizophrenia got worse and worse and worse, and he became suicidal and a bunch of other things, I withdrew from him because to see him in horrible depression was just too painful for me. So I blocked my love for him because it was just too painful to feel it. And that you can't block love from a parent without blocking love on some level to everyone. So there's a reason why I've been married 3 times. So this is one of the things. So when you find the blocks that you have to loving yourself, this is how you heal. And this is basically my little intuitive gift, is I can tell people where their blocks are to loving themselves. And then when you remove those blocks, the anxiety, the alarm just kind of fades away. So this is really going at the root cause protocol as opposed to just trying to make you think better.
Wow. So how do you help people find that place where they've blocked love?
Well, I go through their body, like what I believe, the short version of what I believe happens to you is, as a child, you experience an overwhelming stress. It's too much for your conscious mind to handle, so you stuff it down. Freud would call it repression. You stuff it into the unconscious. And the body keeps the score, just like Bessel van der Kolk says. So because the body is a representation of the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is where these old, damaging programs are stored, they'll show up in the body. So I will find in your body where you feel that alarm and reverse engineer it to get into the same room with those unconscious programs, and then I can change them.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I think my biggest takeaway, and I keep saying this because clearly every 10 minutes I have a life-changing takeaway from this conversation, but my biggest takeaway is the connection between the alarm that goes off and the love that you're not allowing yourself to receive.
Totally.
And that it's beautiful to think that loving yourself is the way you cure anxiety. And what a beautiful thing. And it reminds me of something pretty amazing that my son Oakley shared with me. I said to him the other day, I was like, dude, one of the things I love about you is that you, more than almost anybody I have ever met, are just so comfortable with yourself. Like, you really seem to like yourself. And now, I should preface this by saying that, this is a kid that really struggled. 3 different schools before he was done with 8th grade, severe dyslexia, got so severely bullied at a camp that we had to pull him out of it. And the director wrote a long letter apologizing for everything. This kid has been through the ringer. Mm. And he said to me, well, Mom, he said, I realized and he said, this happened during quarantine. during quarantine, when I got to hang out with you and Dad and, my 2 older sisters, all 4 people who love me, I just started to realize just because other people pick on me or hate me doesn't mean I have to hate myself. Like, I could actually just like myself. Like, I could really just allow myself to love myself. And I got to be honest with you, from that moment, I can really almost pinpoint that during the pandemic, like, this kid's chronic anxiety was gone. He developed this very positive attitude, and it all began from this insight around, hey, if the world is not giving me the acceptance and the love that we all are seeking, maybe I can just give it to myself.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I never thought about meeting the alarm of anxiety with acts of self-love.
Yeah. And that's, it's counterintuitive on some level, because when you're anxious, you don't feel loving. Basically your social engagement system is shut off. You're in survival mode. So when you're in survival mode, in survival physiology, you go into the emotional part of your brain, which is, evolutionarily programmed to look for threat. And if there's no threat in your environment, if you're just lying there in bed with the sheets up to your neck, you will find threat because you can make it with your big prefrontal cortex. You can make worries.
Well, not anymore, because we now know that the second you feel the alarm go off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you do not go upstairs, you go downstairs.
Yep.
You go downstairs.
Yep.
Now, so I love to leave people in action. Obviously, everybody.
Amazing. You deeply impacted me today.
Okay, what happened?
Well, the boundaries thing, and I loved that. I feel like I don't have very good boundaries, but then I heard you just say that you were a victim of sexual abuse, which I also am, and I think that part that you were saying to put your hand on your chest, I think my vagus nerve is broken because it made me more anxious.
It's not broken. Push harder and repeat it over and over and over and over and over again, and you will slowly feel yourself come back into your body. So when you have an anxiety response, do you leave your body, or what happens to you?
I shut down.
Okay.
Bed covers, like, I don't want to do things, or sometimes I go over the top and exhaust myself.
Okay. So what I want you to try, because I don't actually want you to stay in bed. I think staying in bed is a terrible thing to do. And here's why. When you stay in bed, and are you talking about in the morning? Like you wake up and just want to stay in bed? Mm-hmm. So there's a reason why we feel waves of anxiety and stress in the morning. Number one, when you wake up, your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, are typically pretty high. Mm-hmm. And so that triggers a kind of dump in terms of your emotional state. The second thing is that if you are waking up and you're not excited about your life, or there's chaos going on, you're going to feel this sense of anticipatory dread. So lying there makes the dread feel worse. Third thing, staring at the ceiling, thinking about your problems, does not solve them. Fourth thing, rolling over and trying to go back to sleep does not change what feels like a nightmare in your life, right? And so what will change it is if you throw off the sheets, put your feet in the ground, and get up, because once you get up, you can get going, and once you get going, you can keep going. What I want you to add to this, though, is the high five in the mirror and the high five to your heart, because before you start your day in a state where you're spiraling, I want you to come back into your body and tell yourself over and over and over again, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved. Okay? If you can hear it, it's true. Why do you think when we did that exercise in the audience, you felt a wave of anxiety come?
Because I don't believe it's true.
Okay. That's exactly why you felt that. You felt that because you've been running so fast and so long, because you think as long as you're busy and you're running, nobody can catch you and hurt you. And so slowing down is terrifying. Okay, I had the exact same thing. In fact, it wasn't until this fucking pandemic that I couldn't go out that I really realized that I run to Target and Starbucks and go fill up the car because I wasn't okay being in my body and being still. I was so busy because if I was busy, then I wasn't having to feel the shit I hadn't healed yet. And so when you put your hand on your heart and you started breathing and going, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved, your body was like, oh, no, you aren't. We are running. We are going to Target. We got shit to do. We are not listening to this lady. And your body will fight it because you have trained yourself to run and move and be busy as a protection mechanism. Yeah. And what I'm here to tell you is you are okay. You are safe. And you are loved. And you can heal this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll
believe it eventually, you know.
Okay.
I'll believe it eventually.
Right now, I want you to say it. Say it. Okay, go ahead. Put your hands on your heart. Let's see you do it. You can keep taping.
Okay,
Smart cookie.
Because I will forget.
And I will put a little alarm in your phone. So go ahead. Put your hands on your heart. Here we go. Close your eyes. Press deeper. Press deeper. Okay, now you say it for yourself.
The one I'm struggling.
Yes, you can. That's okay. Breathe in. Here we go. Breathe in. Blow it out. Say it.
I'm safe.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm safe.
I'm safe.
I'm loved.
I'm loved.
Breathe in again. That's great. Now say it again. I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm safe.
I'm safe. I'm loved.
Let's do it again. Breathe in. That's great. Really great deep breath. Blow it out. Say it again.
I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved.
Kind of weird, isn't it?
It's super weird.
What do you feel?
I feel it a little more.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Because there are moments when, there's all kinds of stuff going around you. And what you need to know is that no matter what's going around you, you always have you. And you can bring yourself back into your body. You can bring yourself back home. You can settle yourself in this moment. And if you can tune out the noise and come right back in here and feel yourself literally flip the switch and find some power, then you can take a deep breath and face whatever's coming. You don't have to run anymore.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm talking to myself too.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So inspiring.
You're so inspiring.
I want to be like you one day.
You are like me one day. You're running from your fears. You're anxious. You're doing your best. You're reminding yourself every day. You get triggered by shit. This is what my life looks like. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I am creating these tools doesn't mean I'm not using them every day. Yeah.
So let's talk about loving you, the you of you, and how that is such a diversion from what you've been practicing doing yourself.
Oh, that's so true. Oh my God. It's so funny because here I invent this thing called the 5-second rule out of dumb luck, drunk on bourbon. I literally share it by mistake on a TEDx stage. And I invented this thing to help me get out of bed during the worst moment of my life and finally face the issues that my husband and I had gotten ourselves into. It spreads around the world. I use the 5-second rule to build a business, to be productive, to, do. But it wasn't until I discovered the high five habit that I actually understood how deeply I had been betting against myself. How every step of the way I had been criticizing myself or focusing on what was going wrong. That when I stood in front of the mirror, Kathy, I did not see a successful woman. I did not see somebody that was, out there making a huge difference. I saw what was wrong with me. I think for the last 45 years, I have either criticized or ignored the woman I saw staring back at me in the mirror. And so like the high five habit, I'm sorry, I just kept barging along. Is there something you wanted to?
No, I'm just taking it in. You're right where you need to be. Keep going.
And so, the high five habit, it did not begin like some big business strategy. I didn't go, okay, I had the 5-second rule. I need to write a book about the 5, something. What is it? Like, let's manufacture something. Oh, Atomic Habits is good. Let's get a habit book. Like, that's not what happened, because that's not my brand of self-help. My brand of personal development and empowerment is hit rock bottom, have a challenging moment, resist change, and then come up with something that sounds so stupid and so ridiculous that it couldn't possibly be something that would actually work. And then when it actually starts working, not only for you, but people who follow you, you better fucking figure out how this thing works, Matt. Like, why is this working? And so the high 5 habit's no different. I have been trying to write a book, Kathy, for 5 years. The 5-second rule was self-published 5 years ago. I have dyslexia and ADHD. I can create an audiobook like in a day.
Yeah.
Writing something, forget about it. I bet I have written 7 books in the last 5 years. Yeah. All of them sucked. And what happened for me, this is not a pandemic book, but what happened for me, because we're all sick of hearing about the pandemic, but what happened for me is, when the COVID hit, we all have that moment. Like, I'm sure you remember the moment you knew, oh my God, like this is changing everything.
Yeah.
What was it for you?
When they said 2 weeks, the kids would be off school. And then they said, no, it's going to be a month. And I had that feeling of like things closing in and the claustrophobia, like, how will I be able to exist now with us not being able to go out to even a park? What if this would stay this way? Yeah. It was right then. I couldn't believe they were like closing school.
Yeah.
Months.
Yeah. For me, it was a Wednesday in March in 2020. And we were taping this talk show. It was my dream to be a daytime talk show host. And at the age of 51, I got the opportunity to do it. And so we had shot 167 shows at the CBS Broadcast Center. And all of a sudden, somebody comes into the studio space and says they found COVID in the building and you need to evacuate. You got to be out of here in 5 minutes. The fire trucks are outside. Oh, and like that, show canceled, fired from my dream job. Didn't get to say goodbye to the 130 people that I had been working with for over a year.
It is so painful.
But hey, everything is preparing you for something. Everything. And so I get into my car and I'm driving home, and I realized as the New York City skyline was disappearing, and my daughter was in Spain, and she called and said, I just heard the news that they're shutting down the borders. I need to you got to get me out of here. And then I hung up with her, and all of a sudden it was my daughter in California. USC is shutting down, Mom. What is it? What's happening? What's going on? And I thought, oh my God, what is about to happen? And so in a matter of 2 weeks, my a book contract that I had got canceled, and they wanted the money back. Every speech I had booked for more than a year started canceling. And that was the beginning. The kids come home, they're in a state of turmoil. We all experienced it, right? And I think for those first 3 weeks, it was like a complete blur. I basically never got out of my pajamas. I started drinking Bloody Marys at about 11 a.m. We watched Harry Potter marathons and Glee. We watched that season, like all of it. And then all of a sudden, one morning, I woke up and I just felt the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Yeah.
I woke up and I started feeling a couple things. I felt, do I need to reinvent myself again?
Oh my God.
And then I thought, am I about to lose all my money again? And I'm like, I'm too old for this shit. I've worked too hard. Like, you go into that like mode where like, why is this happening to me? I'm a good person. I've worked so hard. Like, you like kind of go at yourself. And so I'm thinking this, and I'm like, okay, get up, just get up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I get up. I make my bed. I always make my bed. And then I drag myself to the bathroom and I start brushing my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, Kathy, I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And I think, oh my God, you look like hell. And the gray hair is coming in, and there's dark circles under my eyes, and my neck is all saggy, and one boob is hanging lower than the other. And I felt sorry for the woman I saw in the mirror. She looked exhausted. She looked scared. She looked overwhelmed. And as soon as you start to go down a negative path in your mind, it will continue taking you there. And so I immediately drift to everything I'm worried about. I'm worried about my parents. I'm worried about the world. I'm worried about frontline workers. I'm worried about COVID. I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about my employees. I'm worried about what's going to happen to my business. I'm worried about everything. And the interesting thing in that moment is if you had walked in, I would have been able to pivot on a dime, especially we women. That's what we do. I would have been like, Kathy, don't you dare. Don't you dare. I know this isn't fair. I know you don't deserve. If anybody can handle this, Kathy, you can. You're going to pick your ass up. You're going to pull on your big girl panties and you are going to get your ass back out there, right?
Yeah.
You could do that for anybody else. But there I was without a bra on, my attitude in the gutter, overwhelmed by my life, stressed out, no energy, last on my list, an impossible amount of shit to deal with, just defeated. And I couldn't think of a damn thing to say to myself. And, you know, the other thing is I probably wouldn't have believed it anyway.
Right.
But for whatever reason, as cheesy as it sounds, I literally raised my hand and gave the woman I saw in a mirror a high five because she needed it. And, you know, it wasn't like lightning struck, but something shifted in me. You know, I felt my shoulders drop. I felt my chin lift. I laughed because it's so dumb standing there high-fiving yourself in your underwear. My God. And it's interesting because I also felt like, okay, you know, come on now, Mel, don't be so dramatic. You can handle this. And I left the bathroom. Now, it was the second morning that something really clicked with me because I woke up again, all the same problems, all the same overwhelm, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I get out of bed. I make the bed. I drag myself into the bathroom. And right as I was getting to the bathroom, that's when I felt something I've actually never felt before in my entire life. And that is this. You know, when you are about to go see somebody you really like, and you're going to meet them for a cup of coffee or like a glass of wine or whatever, and you're about to enter the cafe. What do you feel, Kathy, as you're about to see somebody you like?
You're excited and there's like this anticipation. And so you're already feeling good vibes because you know what that person's like and being in their energy. Yeah,
totally. That's exactly how I felt sitting in your Zoom room. Like, let me in, Kathy, let's go. Come on. I can't wait to see you and meet you. I actually felt that about seeing myself. I have never felt that in my entire life. I have never been excited to see the human being, Mel Robbins. I have been excited to see my outfit. I've been excited to see if the eyeshadow looks good. I have never looked forward to seeing myself, the human. And so I walk in and I'm a little bit more present this morning. And I'm brushing my teeth and I put my toothbrush down and I take a moment. And I really look at myself. And I don't even see my face. I see a human being. What's coming up for you?
I mean, that's just so beautiful. Like what you just said, we think about that when we're about to go see our friend or, you know, the other mom who her daughter's in your daughter's class. And there's like an excitement, like you feel like this is like a gift to spend time with this person, but you had never thought about that. And I just think about the women and the men who I've met in my life, the people who listen to this show who they're so good, Mel, and they're so wired to achieve, but they're only as good as like their last achievement. So there is nothing other than like, well, what's my big post today on Facebook for everyone to see that I earned it. I earned it today. But like inherently, like me just being me. No, I've never heard anyone say like, what a gift to get to be in that person's energy, my own energy today with myself, to see myself.
Yeah. It's everything. And so I sat and I looked at the woman I saw in the mirror and I thought to myself, well, who does she need me to be today? And what game in life matters to her? And how could I actually just like move the ball down the field today? And so I thought about it. And I thought in that moment, based on what was going on, that who she needed me to be was more optimistic about our ability to get through this. And the game that I wanted to play was showing up in a different way for our kids, because they were looking at Chris and I about what was happening in the world.
Yeah.
And so I raised my hand and I like high-fived my reflection. And so there's a couple things that I just want to explain first about when, you do this, because the beauty of this habit, and this is just the first habit in the book, and we're going to talk about it. And trust me, we are going to get down to the achievement stuff next, because it's really important part of why everybody resists high-fiving themselves and why they feel that it's weird. And I'm going to unpack that in a very methodical way, because thematically, when you feel that this is weird or you resist giving yourself this support and celebration, what's contained in the resistance is the key to understanding why you don't have what you want. And it's also the key to unlocking the cage that you're trapped in. How do you love yourself? Words, gifts. You can't give yourself affection. Well, yeah, you can. Remember that thing we used to do as kids where you go, actually, you can give yourself affection. I think, how I have this habit? I have this habit of always high-fiving myself in the mirror. I send myself into the day, go get a Mel. That's a form of affection. You can show yourself love through words and through gifts and through actions, because love is a verb. And that's the most important thing to think about when you think about practicing self-love and developing habits around self-love. So love is a verb. What are the actions and habits and thoughts that you would have when you think about how you treat or speak to somebody you love? Self-love is about giving yourself all the things that you freely give to the people that you love. And what's so awesome is that when you learn and start practicing how to love yourself, it expands your capacity to love other people more deeply, because you can't give other people something that you don't give to yourself. And I know you're like, whoa, I love other people, but you don't truly love other people if you can't love yourself, because there's a part of you that doesn't feel worthy. And so you got to practice this stuff. And it's everything. Here are some ways that I practice. First of all, if someone you loved were struggling, what would you recommend they do in terms of how they take care of themselves? First of all, you got to get a good night's sleep. That's a form of self-love. Put good food in your body. That's a form of self-love. Take time for yourself every day. That's a form of self-love. Moving your body and exercising. That's a form of self-love. The biggest form of self-love for me is not criticizing myself. So when I catch myself criticizing myself, trashing myself, beating myself up, I kick that noise and garbage out of my head, and I replace it with something that I would say to somebody that I love. Instead of focusing on the things that are going wrong, I kick that thought out of my mind and I focus on the things that are going right. Another form of self-love for me is I'm constantly soothing and reassuring myself. Mel, hey, I know it's challenging right now, but this is preparing you for something. Mel, I know you're nervous, but you got this. You can face this. And notice I'm using my name, Mel. Study after study has come out that when you talk to yourself and use your own name, it has a much deeper impact on you. You have the experience of almost having someone else be saying it. It lands deeper. And it's also through gifts. I also give myself the gift of buying flowers every time I go to the grocery store. I started doing that a few years ago. I love flowers. I was always waiting for somebody else to give them to me. And it dawned on me, why the hell don't I just buy them for myself? And so I do. And you'd be surprised. $3, $4, $5, you can always find a small little bouquet at a grocery store. Stick it on your desk. It's a reminder that you love yourself. Remember, love is a verb. Just treat yourself how you would treat somebody that you love and practice it, and you'll get better and better at it. It's incredibly normal when you stop and pause and assess how you feel about your own life and the state of it, it's incredibly normal for you to rank it low. Because most of us walk around with a very negative viewpoint about our own lives. That's number one. And that's a mindset and a perspective that we are going to change. Number two, one of the things that has helped me a lot when I get into moments in my life where I get present to disappointment, where I feel very sad, where I start to beat myself up over where I'm at in my life versus where I thought I would be. Specifically, what comes to mind is when I was facing bankruptcy and I was 40 years old and we, had 3 kids, and I thought I should be in a different place in my life, and thinking and judging my current state against where I thought I would be, it made me sink even lower. And so what you're experiencing is very normal. The fastest way to stop beating yourself up, the fastest way to stop feeling regret over where you're at in your life right now, is to literally say to yourself, I did the best I could. I did the best I could. Because guess what? If you could have done more, you would have. And so if you literally just accept where you are, you're not feeling connected, you're not where you wanted to be, you're disappointed with how your life has turned out up until this moment, that's okay. But the first thing that you need to do to free yourself of that negativity is to say, hey, if I was capable of doing more, I would have. I remember there was a moment in time where, this is a really stupid example, but there was a moment in time where a lot of our friends started buying bigger houses or joining private clubs, or they were able to take their families on very expensive vacations. And that was just something that was not a possibility for me and Chris at the time. And I remember spending years beating myself up, years comparing myself to the people that had nicer clothes, nicer cars, nicer watches, nicer vacations. And it wasn't until I said to myself, well, if I could have afforded those things, I would have bought them, maybe. If I could have afforded to join the club, I might have. I couldn't afford to do it. And there's a massive amount of freedom that comes when you just stop beating yourself up and you acknowledge that if you could have changed it sooner, you would have. But here's what's cool. Once you say that, now you can change it now. And that's what this program's about. So cool to feel the sadness, okay and normal to feel the disappointment, and then say to yourself, hey, I am where I am. If I could have done more, I would have. And now it's time to move on, because guess what? You can do more. You signed up for this program. You're taking your life and the things that you want to change about it very seriously. And the skills that we're going to teach you are going to help you. They're going to help you free yourself from the mental jail. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you spend the next year, which many of you were going to, you were going to spend the next year telling yourself, my life sucks. I should have done something sooner. You are going to spiral in your own head as you beat yourself up over and over and over again. And that's got to stop. The reason why you haven't changed your life to date, you want to know why? It's because your mindset has blown. It's because you live up here. You don't live out in the world, you live up here. And up until this moment, up here has been a very negative place. And I guarantee you, if you were to put your own thoughts in someone else's mind, you know what you would say to me? Well, there's no way in hell Mary would lose that weight if she thought the things that I thought, because I'm constantly saying to myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not capable, I should have done it last year, why didn't I do this sooner? The more you think like that, the more stuck you're going to stay. And so that's why it's critical to acknowledge that the reason why you haven't changed sooner and the reason why your life is in the state that it's in is because of how you think. How you think is stopping you from taking action. You're convinced that you're not good enough. You're convinced that it's too late. You're convinced that other people are going to judge you. And I'm here to tell you it's total baloney.
They go on to say, I simply want to have self-worth because I feel I lost it 8 years ago.
I feel I lost my self-worth 8 years ago. What else is this person saying?
Not really sure how I could break that category down. Any examples? Or is my answer to just have some of it back? So going back to the visualization, how do you break down something that is specific when it comes to improving and increasing your self-worth.
Improving and increasing your self-worth. How do you break it down? Okay, so one of the fastest ways to figure out a goal, if you're just flummoxed, you're like, I just don't even know what to work on here. I feel like I'm in such a hole. I don't even know how to begin. You can do it one of two ways. Because it's not necessarily about a massive transformation. I'm all about incremental progress. And so one of the things that you can do if you're stuck is you could say, okay, I don't know what the heck to do about increasing my self-worth. So here's how you start. If you had more self-worth, what are the things that you would be doing that you're not doing right now? So project yourself into a future state where your self-worth is awesome. What are the things that you do when you live in that state? And that visualization and jumping into the future should give you a clue as to what changes you need to make right now. That's one way that you can handle it. And you can do that with friendships. If your friendships were a 10, what are the things that you would be doing that you're not doing now? If your love life were a 10, what are the things you would be doing that you're not doing now? If your work was a 10, what are the things you would be doing that you're not doing now? That is a way for you to reverse engineer what your goals can be. Another thing that you could do is you could do the opposite. You could say to yourself, how has having no self-worth held me back? Like, get in touch with the pain. And we're going to talk a lot about this tomorrow when we dig deeper into mindset. Get in touch with the pain of what has having low self-worth cost you? How have you held yourself back? And by getting in touch with the pain, you might be inspired to say, wow, I want to stop doing that to myself.
So I guess my question is, what would you tell Mel in 2007, 2006, 2005, and how would that 5-second rule, how do you think that would have changed things for you?
That is a great question, Lauren. Nobody has ever asked me that question. So, is there something big that's happening in your life that you're worried you're going to screw up?
Everything is big for me. I'm fortunate enough to own 2 salons.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have a wonderful marriage.
And by the way, hold on a second. Can we just stop right there? I'm fortunate enough to own 2 salons. Does anybody have a guess where I'm going? You work hard. You made that happen. And so I want to draw a distinction, everybody, with gratitude, okay? Really important. Now, you need to hear me, okay? Because I have a feeling what the issue is. You're not going to like this.
I'm ready for it.
Okay, good. I know you are. That's why I'm going to go here. When you say, I'm fortunate enough, you just gave your power away. And gratitude is a wonderful thing to be able to ground you in the moment and to amplify all these positive experiences. But I want you to be very careful to give away the power of what you've created through your actions and your hard work and the fact that you show up every frickin' day and you are riding the wave called entrepreneurship and life, and you are making that happen. So you are not fortunate enough. You have done the work to have 2 amazing businesses. You got that? Okay, good. Because I think the issue is self-worth. I think that's your issue. That you don't feel worthy of the things that you have created. And so you relate to the things that you've created like it's luck and like it could be taken away. Is that hitting home?
Oh, yeah.
So what do you want to say about that?
I receive that. I receive that.
Okay.
I mean, if I can just be human for a second, I think we all maybe struggle with a little bit of that. Am I worthy of the things that I've achieved, right? Or like that imposter syndrome, like I'm just playing a salon owner, I'm not actually the salon owner, right? But yes, thank you for that. I resonate with that for sure.
And so here's the biggest thing I want you all to take away from this, and I mean this. The fear that things could change, the fear that this is not going to continue to be successful, that's normal, and it's a big thing. But if you allow yourself to focus on this big, scary thing, you will literally lose sight of the power of all the little things. Getting the little things right is everything. So getting out of bed, moving your body, checking your attitude before you walk into your business so you don't bring any negativity in with you. The way that you greet your spouse and your kids when you walk in the door at the end of the day. The stuff you put in your mouth. The person that you listen to in your head. Get out of here, Tina, right? You focus on all those little things all day long, everybody. And the big things take care of themselves. You know how to do this. And so we want to make it more complicated than it is, everybody. It's not. When you get the little things right every day, it shows your brain and your nervous system, your mind, body, and spirit that you care about yourself. It shows you that you can rely on yourself. And it creates its own form of momentum. And I see a lot of you crying. And I know why. Because you're not actually getting the little things right. You've given up on yourself because you've gotten so focused on everybody else and taking care of everybody, all these big problems. And we have to bring it back to the basics. And so what I would have told myself when things started to feel scary is I would have said, bitch, you got to get out of bed. You got to stop barking about what Chris is doing. And you got to cheer for the man. You got to stop griping in your mind and letting your own negative voice come in. And you got to fight to get the little things right. And what's coming up for you?
Is that the question? What's coming up for me?
Yeah, because I just saw you.
Man, I appreciate the little things. I think that's the focus for me. And I also know that we have big plans, big changes, big things that we want to do, creating a national brand.
Amazing.
Elevating the industry, right? Excellence in the industry, creating a voice for stylists, for artists. But is that dream real? I don't know.
You tell me.
I want it to be.
Okay, prove it.
Yeah.
And how do you make a big dream come true, everybody? So this is amazing. You're going to use this whole body of research called behavioral activation therapy, which is literally a fancy pants way to say, act like the person that has built a national brand. Now. Act like the person you want to be now. And there's a simple way to figure this out. Take out a piece of paper, draw a line in the middle of it. Describe the person that you want to be. So a person with a big national brand doing what do they do every day?
They get up early.
Yep.
All the time. They center themselves, right? They create objectives for the day. They affirm their self-worth, affirm their goals. They start out, with a nutritious meal, activity, going deep into work, and that's all before the family even wakes up, right? So
Correct.
That's the person I want to be.
Yes. How many people want to be that person? Yeah, we're like, oh my God, that's the right person. Yeah, ha, 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 ha. And then the alarm rings. And the voice in your head starts barking. And the weight in your body hits. And you feel so far away in your comfy bed from that huge dream that you have. And we all know this feeling, because this is what we all feel every single morning. It is the pull, everybody, of what you're meant to do. And I'm going to warn you, your dreams don't die, they haunt you unless you're taking action toward them. They do not leave you. You have been dreaming about the same shit since you were little. It's not going anywhere. It keeps getting more painful because you can just and you see other people doing it, they're not even as nice as you. That pull is trying to get you to wake up and pay attention. Stop sleepwalking through your life. There's something more important than being comfortable in that bed. It is tapping into the power in you to serve, to create something that blows your mind. And so, yes, that's true. And so there's a couple other things I'm going to tell you. Give yourself a 5-year timeline. Because the things that y'all would take on, if you knew it was going to take 5 to 10 years, it would be bigger than what you're taking on now. And that also kind of relieves the pressure, because some days you're going to wake up and have this amazing morning, and some days the kids are going to, and the dog's going to be barfing on the floor, and you're literally, it's not going to work. And so it is a long game. And the other thing that I'm going to tell all of you that want to expand, because how many of you want to expand your businesses or grow a bigger brand or do all this stuff? You have to hire somebody before you're ready. You have to replace yourself. So once you understand what all the little things are that you got to get right in your business every day, from the time that the doors open to what the morning meeting looks like, to the type of energy that you want, to the playlist that's there, to when the counters get wiped down, to who's cleaning the bathroom, to all of that stuff, you got to hire somebody to replace you. Because now that you know what all the little things are, you need somebody to do that so you can free up time and capacity to work on the bigger things that are calling you. Because otherwise you're going to start to resent your business because you're busy doing all the stuff you shouldn't be doing anymore. And that's keeping you from being able to focus on the bigger things. This was me for a long time in our business. That I was so busy kind of running around and doing all this stuff that I wasn't able to focus on the bigger thing. You got this. You got this. I love you. All right, who's next? So what do you charge? Let's talk about this right now.
The thing is, at the moment, I haven't been officially charging.
No problem. Let's decide right now. If you were to charge your friend tomorrow, which we're not, but you could say, I need you to be my first paying client. You're buying dinner the next 2 nights, and it better be worth $500. Like, I don't know. I'm just making it up.
If I'm honest with you, I don't think, I think 250 would be my start, and then I'd move up from there, a session, because I'm worth it. Like,
well, first of all, you're going to give me clarity in my life.
I know.
And you're only charging me $250. Are you serious now?
I know. Okay. All right.
Is it one session? How many sessions would it take for me working with you to really feel like I got this purpose map or whatever you call it?
One session will make you know that I'm the right person for you.
Perfect.
Simple as that.
Then maybe you do this. Maybe you do this until you get going. It's a $250 consultation.
Yes.
And either way, you're going to leave with X.
Yeah.
And if you decide that you want me to do this process with you, it's $2,500 and it takes X. And you will still, for the $250, get X, Y, and Z. But that's what I charge. I have a wait list. I only work with a certain number of people. That's it.
That works.
Okay. I'm going to tell you a story. So this is super important because you cannot price yourself based on your insecurity. You have to price yourself based on what the market perceives is valuable. And I'm going to share with you an example. So as my speaking career started to take off, and I started getting booked and booked and booked and booked and booked. And I had this agent, he's like, you got to raise your price, dude. And keep in mind, 5 years ago, I still had liens on my house. So I was coming from a real scarcity mindset. And I was getting $25,000 a speech, which I thought was insane. I had never made that kind of money. Of course, you've got agents, so 25% goes off the top, but I was still like almost embarrassed to say, well, that's my, I didn't even have to say it. He said it. I was embarrassed that how is somebody paying me that? This would have probably been 6 years ago. And there was a bank, publicly traded bank, Fortune 100 financial institution. Their CEO was having a retreat. Their chief HR officer was at I can't remember whether it was like Rodan and Fields or, one of the multi-level marketing companies. And she's like, you got to get Mel Robbins in here to teach the 5-second rule. So I get brought into Philadelphia. This was the most nerve-wracking speech I'd ever given in my entire life because I found out that Dan Pink, the New York Times bestselling author, and this like super famous coach that's like a CEO coach who also has a big consulting company and multiple New York Times bestsellers, they were both speaking that day. So like a complete moron, I go the night before and then sit in the back of the room to watch these greats go. And the whole time I'm having a panic attack because I'm thinking, they're so good. I don't know what I'm going to say. How am I going to top this? This is so good. Oh my God. They're going to want their money back. I deliver the speech. I fucking kill it. At the end of the speech, standing ovation, the whole thing. Because the 5-second rule, when I give a speech on stage, it's like a multimedia emotional thing. It's really a speech about anxiety and mental health and suicide and the 5-second decisions that change your life.
Yeah.
And so everybody's a mess. And the chief HR officer comes up to me afterwards and she says, Mel, I have to tell you something. And I said, great. And she said, we almost didn't hire you. And I said, why? And she said, because you were so inexpensive. We were told you were so good that when we heard your price, we actually didn't believe that you could be as good as everybody says you are. And then she said, that coach got paid 3 times what you got paid. That author got paid 4 times what you got paid. Oh, and you were 50 times better than either one of them. She said, you have to raise your prices because your price that you're charging does not match the value that you give. And if you underprice yourself because of your insecurity, you are communicating that you're not, that the value isn't worth it. Okay. And so you've got to think the kind of person that you want to, and for many of you, for example, B-School, that's a stretch. It's not an inexpensive program. But because it was a stretch, didn't that make you feel that there must be value in that program? Yeah. You see, nobody actually wants to feel like they're a bargain. People want to feel as if you see the potential and the growth. People want to feel like this is going to be worth it. And, you know, the truth is, I get paid $100,000 to give a 1-hour speech at this point. Because starting to raise the price raised my game. There's a reason why I'm the #1 female speaker in the world. There's a reason why people don't even blink. It's because when she said that to me, it was a fucking gift. Mm-hmm. Because I was letting my insecurity price me. I didn't even see my own potential and my value. And it's important for you guys to hear that number, not because I'm bragging. I mean, clearly, if I'm, you know, to your point, Scarlett, you know, there's lots of things that we could be doing this afternoon. And I just wanted to be with you guys because I'm so excited that you're investing in yourself. And I'm in it to make an impact. When you cross the line from wanting to make an impact to truly going, I'm going to also make a fucking business out of this. You got to think like a businesswoman. And there is tremendous value to what you're doing. And by the way, just because you can't do it for yourself doesn't mean you're not providing value. It's very hard to do for yourself what you can do for other people.
Yes.
I don't coach myself. Other people coach me.
I agree. I fully agree with that. I know that I can give everyone the best advice, the best training, the best resources. And then sometimes when it comes to myself, I'm like, okay, it's not until I hear it back, somebody else is giving me that information. I'm like, yeah, I know that. Why don't I do it for myself? That's the reason. I can't lie. I recently came across you, Mel, when I was fully focused on what it is I wanted to do. You came up everywhere in my timeline, everywhere. And I know that nothing is on purpose. Nothing is not supposed to be. Like, I know everything's intentional, right? So God showed up. He said, this is what you need to do. This is who you need to follow. This is who you're supposed to be kind of learning from. So I started subscribing. I was listening to all of your podcasts. I'm like, okay, I've got to buy all their books. And Maria found about her last year. Her school came up last year and I'd missed it. So I signed up to the waiting list and I saw it pop up and I thought, am I ready for that? And then you popped up with her, with the interview you had with her. And I was like, okay, this is it. And then it came up again and I'm like, Tanya, do not miss this, because it's going to blow your mind and it's going to elevate you, which in turn means that you are going to be that gift to somebody else. So therefore, if I don't show up, that means somebody else doesn't show up and doesn't get to do what they're supposed to do. So yeah, I'm so grateful, honestly.
I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful that all of you are here. And let me say one more thing about the money. When we underprice ourselves, we are actually making it harder for other women.
Yes, that part, yeah.
You are not doing yourself any favors. You are not doing anybody else any favors. And by the way, you're not doing your client any favors by giving them a bargain. People don't want to feel like you expect less of them. People want to feel like you see something more for them. If somebody can't pay the $250, they shouldn't work with you. That's not the business you're in.
That's true.
They need to do the work to find the $250 so that they can then actually show up and work with you.
I agree. Love it. I'm so gassed.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.